I've had you in my mind. I didn't know who was going to be showing up today, but I've actually been, past couple of weeks, I've just been visiting different places of thought. I had one train of thought that think that was coming into view prior to the election. And then after the election, there was like some more definition that was coming through. And sometimes when you're working with bringing forth your authentic self and that opportunity seems imminent, you try to pull back. I mean, nah, I'm not going to do that. That's my experience anyway. That's kind of a part of the dance of it. But I wanted to begin our talk today by asking you, and we're going to see if this works out. Does anybody know what a plateau experience feels like? What would you say that is? What is a plateau experience? Just maybe two.
Got to like a certain point where you feel like you can't get it.
Uh, everybody kind of agree with that? Smooth? Hmm. Does anybody want to have a plateau experience? Yeah, just to have things chill out. Yeah, yeah. That's good. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that because I don't interpret. I think our conditioning is one where we're constantly being driven to cross the line and finish and start and finish, and we don't give ourselves the break to stop. So we misinterpret that. So now you screwed up my whole talk. Oh wow. So I just want to just say that on the first offering of what is a plateau, um, there is something that we are paying attention to when we feel a need to push through. Because the effort, the wise effort, the intentional effort is something that does matter, and a lot of times it's like when and where and who, do I, if there is a who else do I do it with? But it's something that's kind of like constantly part of our thing. And sometimes when we hit that plateau, and maybe we've been there a while, we don't really know what to do next. And so I want to tell a little story that to me depicts someone who either was approaching a plateau or who actually pushed through. And this is a true story. And I think it was about 66, 67. It was in the late 60s in New Jersey. And this was a man who was an artist, and he had a wife and two sons, and they had a nice little home out in the suburbs. And one day he was just he had been very productive, but he was just kind of really driven to address something. And so he checked in with his wife and said, "Hey, I got to explore some things." And they had an attic in the house. And so he was like, "I'm going to be I'm going to the upper part of the house for a while. I don't know how long, but I really need to get up there. And I don't know how long I'm gonna be up there. I'm gonna come down and maybe get something to eat now and then, but I'm just gonna be up there. And so she agreed to give him his space and she would take care of the things downstairs. And so he ascended to the attic. And that attic probably wasn't as big as this or smaller, but the movement was the same in that just how you came into this building and you ascended this staircase to enter into a space that seemed to hold so much potential. He did the same with his attic, kind of reimagined it as a little temple. And so he stayed up there. His wife was a meditator and she was into different things. And he had a background in the church, but he was starting to break into other things. And I don't know exactly what he did up there, but he made it a sacred time. And as he abode in that space, just opening up to his pain, his past, reflecting on those elements, as well as, even more importantly, trying to get a new set of instructions. He made himself available because everything that he had done prior to that point was meaningless. Sans the family. But his own personal drive and ambition it didn't peter out, but he just knew that there was something more. And so he made this space a sacred space, and he just began interacting and making himself available, as I said before, for instruction. And after a period of time, he began to get instructions, specific directives. Now, can you imagine if you came up into a space like this, or if you have a space in your dwelling and you had hit a plateau and you're just sick and tired of being sick and tired of everything that you had done up to that point, which is kind of fitting for our current time. But just to get into this kind of attitude of the meaninglessness of everything that you had done prior to this time, this door that you have the opportunity to go into if you choose. Bringing with you all of the practices that you know, and maybe being open to exploring some that you don't know. But you're looking for some answers. You want direction. You want instructions. And so this man, got some very tangible instructions in his attic. And it became very clear that he had gotten the full portion of what he needed. He was like scribbling down the instructions as a good student. Now think of it. I mean, there's nobody in that room. And there's nobody in this room. He's working with the same atmosphere. There are people in this room, but we're not looking to each other for you understand the differences. But with what he was receiving, he began scribbling it down and it was barely legible. And when he felt this sense of completion, he was just like elated. And the time in the attic was done. He came barreling down the stairs. Baby, I got it. I think this is it. And his wife was probably, just busy somewhere and is like, this isn't the first time I've seen this. You know what I mean? I'm taking the kids to Target and, I've seen this, heard this before, so on and so forth. I'm just joking about that. But, it's just like, people that are like, yes, this is it. This is it. And so his actual words were, I think I got it. His time spent in that room, the sacred time he spent, he actually got something tangible. And that piece of paper that he had four words on it. The first word was acknowledgement. The second word was resolution. The third word was pursuance. And the last word was psalm. This man received the inspiration to make one of the greatest musical compositions ever. And it was called The Love Supreme. The man was John Coltrane. He went up with nothing in a humble attic and came back down ready to change the world. You came up here with nothing. But do you have a space where you can challenge your plateau? Can you utilize the auspices of this mindful awareness practice to tap into something you've been trying to say all along, but it's maybe been buried or unstimulated? I want to say that, and as I say this, I want you to just be open to the sensations in your body. See if you can tap into something that's beyond the cerebral. Because what I want to invite you to do is to see if you can implement the first movement of a love supreme, which was the acknowledgement. What are we acknowledging? Love itself. To my people who are in the virtual space on Zoom, and to all of you who are present in this room, can you open yourself to acknowledge love now? Love is an immeasurable. Within the Buddhist philosophy, it's called a Brahma Vihara, but one of its other interpretations is that they are the immeasurables, which suggests and indicates that there is no tool or means of measuring this element called love because it's immeasurable. Within our time and space continuum, there is no limit or space that love does not occupy. And I want to invite you again to see if you can lower your resistance, to acknowledge love, if it's true that it's immeasurable. If it's true that love is immeasurable, then that means that there has never, ever been a time in any of our life experiences where love was not present, coinciding with pain, terror, fear, hurt. If it's true that it's immeasurable. And I was inspired to share this with you because I believe that the best and the richest and the most fertile possibilities and ideas begin with and flow from love itself. Love has a way of just nullifying the need to achieve. acknowledgement, resolution, pursuance, and so on. Came from the heart of a man who was looking for something more significant. And it's still hard to be understood. I hope that these words and these ideas that I've endeavored to share with you may help you to turn may help you to turn away from what is so unsatisfactory. And I hope that it'll point you to a place where you can really be willing to present yourself, to be present with yourself, where you can spend a little more time on this quest for what you don't know. See if there's a story to be rewritten and not following everybody else's story. Humbling ourselves just to say, I don't know everything. I need help. And if it's true that love is immeasurable, then maybe I could just begin to just slowly and gradually just accepting and exploring if that's really true. It could be scary. It can. Your flesh will tremble. But don't you need that? Don't you need something to wake you up? And don't you want some new instructions? John Coltrane kind of laid out a subtle, obscure pattern for one of the ways that we may be able to do that. I wanted to share that with you, so thank you. There's more I could say, but I won't. And I would like to offer maybe the next 7 to 8 minutes for any reflections virtually on Zoom or in this room. But if you do, or if you don't, just see if you can just stay connected and at least keeping the door open towards this idea. I mean, don't be in a rush to speak, especially if it's going to make you feel safer. like a nervous reaction, you know. This gentleman's hand came up first. If you could share your name when you get the mic.
My name is Gavin. I just want to say that is one of my favorite albums of all time, and I've actually never heard that story before. It is crazy meaningful because when you hear that album, it really comes through. And like that's an album that I listened to for the first time in high school, and I will go back to it every once in a while to have this soulful experience. And I had no idea that's how it came to fruition. I'm obviously John Coltrane is an incredible musician, but that's really powerful. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. That's all I really wanted to say.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. So I have a John Coltrane story. About 1960, a friend and I were going into Manhattan from Queens to hear a West African drumming group led by Olatunji from Nigeria. And that would have been enough of a musical experience. And John Coltrane was in the audience. And I don't know, I assume that Olatunji knew who John Coltrane was or not, but he invited John Coltrane to come up and play. It was fantastic. The drumming and his horn playing, it was, as expression was, out of this world.
Mm, mm. Nick, thank you for sharing.
In some little club in Manhattan.
Yeah, thank you. I wish I've never had that experience. But it's an interesting thing that one of the reasons why I am informed and I'm being informed in these ways as a mindfulness poly certified teacher of the Theravadan tradition. Um, it's simply because these people inspire me more than others, some others do, and I follow that. I wanted to just say that with the last time I was here, I shared a quote from Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And he said he wrote an essay for the Berlin Jazz Festival of '64, and he said that when life doesn't seem to be offering us a sense of order and meaning, it's the current time. He said that the jazz musician creates their own sense of order and meaning by allowing the sounds and the vibrations of the earth to flow through their instrument. Further examination and contemplation into that showed me that that's not exclusive to jazz musicians. If your feet are on the floor, you can create your own sense of order and meaning by learning to interpret what's coming through. Because life isn't going to give us the sense of order and meaning that we want or feel we deserve. So we're just flipping the coin a little bit. Anyone else maybe in the virtual space? Virtual on Zoom? Yes,
My name is Adam.
Adam,
This is
welcome.
my first class today, so good to be here. Um, on the topic of plateaus, you mentioned the unmeasurable love all around us. When I try to tap into that space, it's more of an emptiness for me. I have trouble connecting to that. So, any ideas or thoughts for how you would recommend tuning into that love at all times?
Yeah, change your it's a very good question. The best method I could say is acceptance. Because there's no method. So if it's true that love is immeasurable, if it's true, and this is coming, from the Pali Canon and the Buddhist teachings and so forth, Karaniya Metta Sutta, these are the texts that espouse this idea that love is the ultimate and that it's immeasurable. Divine abodes. So I would encourage you to challenge it. And take ownership of your own personal relationship to love. Question it. It's one of the foundational principles of what the Buddha taught in that he said, don't take what I say, don't take my word for it, see for yourself. And I extend that. It's just flipping a switch of trying to get into or trying to make a connection. And then just looking at what it's actually saying is that it's immeasurable. So that means there is no corner of space in this room or even outside of this room where love is not present. If it's true, so I would just I want to invite you to follow your appetite. If it's important for you to find out, ask for, ask love to show itself. That's the best way I can say it. There's really no method of steps or anything. It's an acknowledgement. And the acknowledgement is 24 hours, 7 days a week, if you want it to be. It's action. There's no deliberation. I hope that is somewhat sufficient. But I would say acknowledge love. Remove all doubt and just acknowledge because love isn't more present when you believe it is, and it's not less present when you doubt it. It's not wishy-washy. Well, we're going to be closing this session now. I really appreciate your time and attention and your willingness to go down this path this morning. I hope that you will find yourself redirecting yourself more towards the question mark and less towards certainty. Because certainty will certainly disappoint. Well, I think that's it. We can dedicate the merit and we will close with a deep breath together on the count of three. You don't have to get all pretty or anything to do it. 1, 2, 3, inhale. release, and we dedicate whatever has been beneficial, what will endure this present moment and other moments. We want to dedicate that to each other. And we also want to extend our well wishes to the beings across the globe who are not able to experience anything even remotely close to what we're sharing at this time. And may this experience be true for everyone one day. Acknowledge love, people.